The line is flipped. The Texans are now favored against a good Broncos team. Let's try to make sense of it. Let's talk about the history of DeMeco Ryans versus Sean Payton. Let's hear from a guy that hopefully doesn't go anywhere anytime soon, but there's reason to be a little bit concerned. We got a lot to talk about in the locker room as we go on to Denver.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube.
Do it live.
You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked.
We always talk about following the money here in the locker room. I think it's a good resource. Las Vegas, they seem to know what they're doing, and they seem to have a pretty good idea about things, especially in NFL. NFL betting lines can be very, very wacky. And the Denver Broncos, without Patrick Surtain, before that news even dropped, they were just a 1.5 point favorite against the Houston Texans. And then Patrick Surtain, the reigning defensive player of the year, he goes out and the line flips almost like it would for some quarterbacks. The line flips that much to where now the Texans are favored against the Denver Broncos, which leads to the question, why are the Texans favored against the Denver Bronco team? It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. It is my score app now, and it is the home of one of my favorite games, Higher Lower, which we play quite often. If you want to get involved in that, they got a hell of a promotion right now. $20 entry, no deposit needed, none. And you can still get a 100% match up to $100. Use the promo code LOCKER. Concept very simple. Woody Marks is going to have this many receiving yards, higher or lower. You pick it, your odds go up the more guys you pick, and then it makes every game more enjoyable. It is a game of skill. And like I said, even if you're not going to do that, download the app and use it as your scoring app. The scoring apps that you become used to, they absolutely suck. This is my favorite app for scores. For example, I pull it up right now, the Sleeper right here. You just pull up what scores do you want to see? We can go to college football right here, college football, and we have all the games that are going on right now. And there actually is games. Texas State, they take you in the red zone. They have everything there. They got the MLB too. They have all the stats, everything. It's the best scoring app in the game. So shout out to the greatness that is Sleeper. But let's just try to make some sense of why the Texans would be favored. First of all, I think there's a couple of things. And I think this is where the frustration and the root of the frustration with how the Texans have performed has stemmed. And I think this is also why you have some people in that building getting a little bit testy. The Texans should not be a 3-win team at this point. The Texans are looking up at teams that, based on realistic expectations and the standards that have been set and the opportunities that have been presented, they are a bad offense away, a consistently bad offense away from being right there in the mix. Right now, they're sitting at the 9 seed. I know we're looking at playoff standings early, but they're looking up at 8 teams, and it seems somewhat distant, but it's also somewhat close. But the reality is the Texans aren't as bad as their record is, which is a sign of bad coaching, bad offensive coaching. Because instead of having a bad offense, they've had an awful offense a large chunk of the time, specifically when they play good teams and teams that aren't either depleted or just dog-butted like the Tennessee Titans. The Broncos aren't that even without Patrick Surtain. So that's reason number one why the Texans would be favored. They're not a bad team. Reason number two is Patrick Surtain is a big deal. And if you look at Denver's defense and you look at what Denver is right now, and you look at these rankings, this is crazy. Denver's defense is first in the following categories. Think about this. This is what coaches emphasize. These are some categories that coaches emphasize when they're talking about what they want their defense to do. They're first in opposing QBR, so they're making quarterbacks uncomfortable. They're first in opposing completion percentage. Texans are actually second. So you get a good grasp of how the Texans are. The Broncos are the same. It's about a 2% difference. They're first in sacks by 10. So they're getting after the quarterback. Denver is first in the league in sacks. They have 36 sacks this year. And they're first in third down defense. So the defense is good at getting off the field. So you see all that, and we go back to the original question, why are the Texans favored against Denver? Maybe it's factored in that Patrick Surtain is a big part when you take away half the field of that defense. The other reason number 3, is while Denver is playing really good on offense, let's not forget not too long ago, they were getting their ass whooped by the Giants before they had that offensive eruption. And Giants are a really, really bad offense. Denver had 30-plus fourth quarter points, whatever it was. And then they just completely unloaded on the Dallas Cowboys, which is another bad defense. They haven't done this against a team like the Texans, a defense like that. So there's that. And then reason number 4 is the Texans are at home. And home field matters in the NFL. Denver's pretty banged up. Texans, really? We think maybe Nico Collins will be back. We'll get to that in a sec. We think maybe Christian Kirk will be back. Not sure how great of a thing that is or isn't. But the Texans are a relatively healthy football team. Denver's a little bit beat up. They're normal beat up. They're missing one of their better players, but they're a little bit beat up. So that's how you get to a point where the Texans are favored over the Broncos. Now, my question is this. If you had a gun to your head and your life depended on it, who are you betting on? That's really the question that I have. Who are you betting on? If you have the imaginary gun to your head and you have to wager, your life depends on it. Are you taking the Texans -1.5? Are you taking the Denver plus 1.5? What are you betting on? Let's think about that. Let's go to the super chat here in the locker room. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Chris Sloan, shout out to you, my friend. Appreciate you. He says, why are people keep saying the Colts are bad? Do bad teams make NFL history? Do bad teams have nominated MVPs? Bad teams blow out bad teams consistently? Do bad teams take their starters out at the start of the fourth quarter? I don't think the Colts are bad. Now, I do wonder what the ceiling is for the Colts. I've mentioned last year's Minnesota Vikings, but I don't think they're bad. If someone thinks that the Colts are bad, I think their definition of bad is they're misleadingly elite right now. And I don't even know if misleadingly is a word, but they feel like it's kind of fool's gold when it comes to the Colts being elite. And let's be honest, the Colts really haven't played anyone. The schedule is going to get a little bit tougher, really in a short time. Like, this is a good challenge for them this week for Indianapolis. But when you're doing what they're doing, it's hard to just completely dismiss as, quote, bad. I think when people say bad, I think they're just saying they're not as good as what their status is right now, which is the best team in the league, elite, historic offense. They go to Pittsburgh this week. And they're actually favored by 3.5 on the road. That kind of speaks to how good people think they are. We've talked about, we started this show off talking about the people in Las Vegas and how smart they are and all that. That kind of shows you what they think. They got them favored on the road against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not great, but when you're favored on the road, that's an interesting one. We'll see how they respond to this. This is going to be one of their tougher games. As far as the NFL history, we've talked about this. They're getting 3.5, damn near 3.5. I think it's 3.42 or 6 or something points per possession, which is kind of insane. And through 8 games, that's right between the 2007 Patriots and the greatest show on turf. So yeah, Daniel Jones MVP, we will see. But I think it's a combination of that people just don't know if they're elite. And people don't really trust Daniel Jones no matter what. Appreciate you very much, Chris. I do not think they suck. I think they're pretty damn good. And I've been a Shane Steichen fan for a while. I think he's the best coach in the division. He has the most wins. Now, he doesn't have a playoff win, but he was a drop pass away from winning a division with Gardner Minshew. and he has Daniel Jones performing at a high level, regardless of what you may or may not think of him. So I think they have the best head coach in the AFC South. I know DeMeco has the playoff wins and the division titles, but I think Shane Steichen, if you gave him CJ Stroud and what the Texans got to work with, like, he didn't inherit the best salary cap situation in the league. He didn't inherit 4 first-round picks in 2 years. I think if you swap that around, I don't know that it would look much different. I don't know that DeMeco Ryans is going to compete with Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, Daniel Jones, and that the resources that the Colts have had compared to what the Texans have had. So I think I have a lot of respect for Indianapolis. I always have. Charles Colston says, evening, Landry, do you think the Texans really have a chance? I do. I do think they have a chance. The imaginary gun to my head question that I just asked, it's really tough. It's really tough. And I think it comes down to the superpower that the Texans possess, which is the defense. And it also comes down to what Bo Nix looks like against DeMeco Ryans. I don't know what that looks like. You never know what Bo Nix you're going to get. Their offense is starting to play a little bit better, but again, it's been against crap teams. But the Knicks versus Ryans factor will be interesting. The other thing that I think the Texans are perhaps going to have to figure out is I don't think you can settle for 3 against Denver. You can do that against San Francisco. You can kick field goals, but I don't think you can settle for 3 against the Denver Broncos. DeMeco Ryans was asked how to improve red zone efficiency. Here's what DeMeco had to say.
Get in the end zone. We got down in the red zone a few times, and we kind of stalled out, right? A couple negative plays. But we can do a better job of just, keeping our foot on the gas and being more productive. A great job of getting in the red zone, and Emi did a great job of really finishing those drives with points, but we want to finish those drives with 7 if possible.
Yeah, and I mean, get in the end zone for sure. That's definitely one way to say it. I don't know that they have the answers to that. It's going to be tough against this Denver defense. A little bit easier with Surtain out and all the injuries that they have. But yeah, I don't know that you can settle for 3 against them and make it out alive. But it will be interesting to see the chess match between DeMeco Ryans and Bo Nix and Sean Payton and DeMeco Ryans. And I thought this was kind of an interesting little nugget that I picked up. The history of DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton. I pulled this up, and it was actually pretty cool to look at. I always enjoy going back in time. This is about a 16-year stretch of DeMeco Ryans and Sean Payton. And the record is in DeMeco's favor. He is 2-2 as a player versus Payton. And he is 2-1 as a coach. 2 of those as a position coach, 1 of them as a head coach. The Russell Wilson game 2 years ago where he threw the interception to Jimmy Ward in the end zone was the one time. But 7 games combined, 4 as a player, 3 as a coach. Again, 2-2 as a player with Sean Payton's Saints going against DeMeco Ryans Texans and Eagles, including a playoff loss where DeMeco actually had an interception. And then 2-1 as a coach, 2 with DeMeco Ryans as a linebacker coach, and 1 as the head coach, the previously mentioned situation. So they have a little bit of history. So I do wonder, I'm kind of interested to ask DeMeco about his history with Sean Payton, because he's prepared for him in 3 different roles. I wonder what it's like preparing for Sean Payton, if there's anything that you got to get you got to do extra. If there's anything that you got to figure out, are there any? I mean, he's not going to give like tendencies, but I do wonder what DeMeco Ryans has to say about that. It's going to be a hell of a chess match because Sean Payton's a hell of an in-game coach. He's a hell of an in-game coach, and DeMeco Ryans is a hell of a defensive coordinator. But we'll see how the wits match. I think the rosters are relatively equal. I don't think that was the case the first time they faced 2 years ago. I mean, we're talking about Jimmy Ward getting interceptions in the end zone and Russell Wilson being quarterback. So that kind of speaks on itself. It's obviously a different Denver team, but the head coaching matchup will be interesting. He definitely is not bringing a knife to a gunfight like Kyle Shanahan was a few days ago. They're banged up, but it's nothing out of the norm for the NFL. Let's go back to the chat. Malik, my guy Malik on the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says, why did Ryan, I'm assuming he's saying Ryan, why did Ryan say y'all good? He assumed that y'all plan on teaming up or something. Colts good, but not serious. Schedule been weak. We'll see now on. I don't think he had anything really to say. I don't think he could really defend what he was being asked. So that's all I think that was. I don't think he was getting teamed up at all. It was just normal questions. But yeah, he didn't really have anything on that. He couldn't really. I mean, he literally said that he didn't say what he had said a few minutes ago. So I don't. That's all I think that. Or a few seconds. That's all I think that was. I just think he didn't really have anything left, and I think he kind of realized, damn, I gotta gather myself. But yeah, that's what that was. But yeah, and also he hears the noise. Like let's just be honest about that. Let's just use some common sense on that. Colts good, but not serious. Schedule been weak. We'll see now on. Yeah, you'll really learn about the Colts in a second. Let's hear from ownership. We don't hear from ownership very much. DJ Bieneme was on the scene, and Cal and Hannah were there. This is one of those events where I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's a golf outing or something. It seemed pretty early. But they were asked about old DeMeco. Look at Cal and Hannah right there. Let's hear what they had to say about the hiring of DeMeco Ryans. I guess I don't know who. I think Sarge asked it, like laid out the resume of DeMeco Ryans and then asked why he was so awesome. Let's see how the McNairs replied to that.
It was easy. We knew him as a player and had studied him in college and had watched him in his coaching career, and he just stepped into it. And of course, you never know, what's going to happen, and we're just really glad to see where we are now.
I think a big testament to DeMeco is how he's kept the team focused. That is really hard to do when you're losing. And so that's a testament to him being head coach and being able to keep the building together and all the guys focused on what's important. I think that's important.
Right, there you go. Yeah, so they're pleased with what's going on. She likes, Hannah says she likes the way that he's kept it together with how the team is going. They also were asked about the 0-3 start, and here was what they said about that.
That's a great question. I think it's more of a coaching question. We saw last week was really good results, and so that's what we hope to see as we keep moving forward.
Speaking of coaches,
that's a great.
Yeah, so they just want to see it keep going and building on last week. So there you go. We don't hear as much from the McNairs, but that's what they had to say about DeMeco. And I mean, they should be pleased with that, and we should see what's happened. I think there's imaginary notions that DeMeco, like there's some sort of like group calling for DeMeco to get fired. Like you don't want to see the same when a defensive minded coach is struggling to put out a consistently competent offense. There's a little bit of frustration, especially when the expectations jump up. So I think that's kind of the natural frustration. I don't think there's anything crazy about it. But yeah, that's that's just kind of where it's at. Shout out to the greatness of TDECU for sponsoring SNL and Houston football and the locker room. You can go to tdcu.org/Texans, get that fresh new Texans debit card with the logo. You will get 15% off Texans gear with the TDECU Texans debit card. Membership required, insured by NCUA. And that's not all they do. They do a hell of a lot at TDECU, and they are very, very, very good to do business with, especially if you are living here in Texas. So tdcu.org/Texans. You will not regret it. Shout out to TDECU. We actually have a bet. Myself and Cody Stoots made a bet today. I don't know if all of y'all watch SNL. I think a lot of y'all do. But if the Texans win their next 3 games and Blake Fischer plays at least 20 snaps or more, then Cody has to get a jersey. I didn't want to make him spend $200 on a Blake Fischer jersey. That would just be cruel. But he has to get a jersey, customized jersey that says eligible 57. How they keep saying over the PA, 57 is reporting eligible. He has to get a number 57 jersey, and on the nameplate, it has to say eligible. If the Texans win the next 3 games and he plays 20 or more snaps. And I also wonder, like with Blake Fischer, is it, I don't want to say demeaning, but there's a lot of times in sports where you're asked to do something and it's not what you're used to. And it's pretty much a demotion. Like, let's be honest. You're supposed to be one of the tackles of the future. You damn near don't even look playable in training camp. Let's be honest. Cam Robinson was better than Blake Fischer. They got rid of Cam Robinson. They didn't say they got rid of Cam Robinson because they liked Blake Fischer. They got rid of him. They literally said it was because Cam Robinson wanted to play more. And then Casario, when I asked him about it, kind of, he said, well, we got, starting tackles. I said, who's the starting tackle? He said, oh, well, they've started. I said, okay. I wonder how it feels to be like the tackle eligible guy now for 26 snaps. Like, it's one thing to do it for a few, but now you're the 26 snap. Like, you're getting more playing time than you've gotten in a long time. You're coming in. You get announced over the PA every time. Like, Blake Fischer was literally announced when he reported eligible. He was announced 26 times because that's how many snaps he played. I wonder how that feels for him. I guess it's better than nothing. I guess. There's probably some guys who would probably look at that as, this sucks. But I find it interesting, and I do wonder how much longer this lasts. I think this is going to be a part of their offense. I think we're going to see the 6 offensive linemen for a large chunk. I think this might be the Kaylee adjustment. My fears with Nick Caley, though, and I asked the question, will Nick Caley and DeMeco Ryans take advantage of the opportunity that they have? My biggest fear with Nick Caley is that because they had the ball for 41 minutes, because DeMeco Ryans is clearly a defensive-minded coach in more ways than one, because of that, I think that there's a chance they try to run the ball against teams that are way more capable than San Francisco of stopping the run. And that's kind of my concern. I have Nick Caley trust issues. You can't trust Nick Caley week to week. We've got one example of Nick Caley, and it was really just 1 quarter and then 4 quarters against a completely depleted, stripped Baltimore Ravens football team. So how does he handle this? It would be insane to have confidence in Nick Caley. And I just wonder if this is sustainable, what they're doing. And if it's not, I wonder if they have the wherewithal, the capabilities to adjust. There's big concerns about Nick Caley, whether you trust him or not. Like, it would be crazy to. Do I
Nick.
do I think he's 100% a finished product? No. Bobby Slowick had an awesome first year. And then the second year, he looked lost and he wasn't able to adjust. Maybe Nick Caley has a good ability to adjust. Early on, it hasn't looked great. We did see QB sneaks last week, which maybe if they would have done that against Tampa Bay or Seattle, we're talking about a team that's 500 heading into a chance to get in the inside of the playoff picture. I do respect the adjustment of the Blake Fischer thing, but trusting Nick Caley against a good team with or without Surtain, I think it would be foolish. I think it would be foolish. And it would be based on nothing but just hope and blind faith. And a wise man once told me, hope is not a plan. The other thing I wonder is, how does Nick Caley take the positives that we saw from the receivers Sunday and mix that in with Nico Collins and maybe Christian Kirk?
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
Which, by the way, tomorrow will be Nico and Kirk watch at practice. Texans practice, that's what we'll be looking for. Is Nico back on the practice field? Is Christian Kirk back on the practice field? Those will be the two things that we're looking at. And then we'll see who else is banged up, perhaps. But Nico and Kirk, we will be watching. But how does Nick Caley handle those guys? You got to wonder. And then after that, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We're going to get the first look at Nick Caley facing an opponent for the second time, which I said was one of the big tests for an offensive coordinator. Week to week, half to half adjustments, and when you face an opponent for the second time, it's going to be the first time that he gets that chance when he faces the Jags. So we'll see that. It's a big next few days for Nick Caley. Is it make or break for him? Maybe not. It could be make or break for the Texans, though, when you look at the opportunity that we've laid out and what's in front of them. And again, I've said this at the start of the season. I think we see this. The offense doesn't have to be awesome. If the offense had to be awesome, you'd have zero hope at having a good football team. They just have to be okay. And sometimes you can even be bad and win with what they have on defense. But we'll be keeping an eye on Nico Collins and Christian Kirk. DeMeco Ryans. He was asked about Nico Collins. I think you probably know where this is going, but this is what he had to say about Nico Collins.
Nico, where is Nico Collins at in the concussion protocol?
Yeah, we'll see how he progresses throughout the week with the concussion protocol.
We'll see. Some coaches will say, yeah, he's on phase 2, phase 3, but we'll see. We'll see how Nico Collins progresses. Tomorrow's step 1. Will Nico Collins be out there? A lot of times in the concussion protocol, to pull the curtain back, like, I don't have the exact protocol. I think Aaron Wilson's like an expert on concussion protocol for some reason. I know that might not surprise anyone.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
But I think there's like phases where you can work on the side. Like, I think sometimes you work on the side before, and then you sometimes go on the field. Sometimes you have like a non-contact thing on your head, so you can't be touched. And then eventually your full go. So I think those are the 3 things to watch. 4 things, if you count them. Number 1, is he out there at all? Number 2, is he on the side field or is he on the actual field? Number 3, does he have some piece of equipment that says that he can't have any contact? And then number 4, is he a full go? So those are really the phases of the concussion protocol, just based on my experience in observing stuff. But I don't have like the full breakdown of concussion protocol like Alpha Aaron does. So we'll see what that is. Evan says, when's the next live event? Live event is this Friday, my friend. This Friday at Spanky's Sharpstown. This Friday, we will be there at 3:00. Spanky's Sharpstown, come through. Little Halloween happy hour. The best food in the game, homemade sauces, homemade dough, all that stuff. And the pizza's not all they got. Everything's good. The pasta's amazing. The chicken Alfredo lasagna, hopefully that's still on the menu. The drinks, everything's cheap. You'll be shocked by the prices. You'll be shocked by the atmosphere and just how great it is. Haven't met anyone that's gone that hasn't been back. I'll put it that way. And shout out to Big Frank and the fam for doing what they do and giving us a place to mingle with the Houston football community. So get out there this week, 3 to probably about 6. I say whenever. I got to take daughter trick-or-treating. So it's probably 3, 5:30, something like that. 6. We'll hang out after the show. And I hope to see you there on Friday. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a real good one. You can ask anyone who's gone. They've enjoyed themselves. The Joe Mixon sighting that people were talking about. He was in the building. Brandon Scott tweeted it out. He had a backpack on. He was walking. So he has 2 limbs. He is alive. And he is in the building. That's 3 things. That's progress. Don't know what that means. Still wouldn't hold my breath on him playing football. I actually think the Texans have to perform well the next 2 games for it to be worthwhile for him. Because why would he want to force it if there's not much to play for? And why would they even want to put him in that position? So I think the success of the next few weeks, kind of if there's any chance that Joe Mixon will play, I think that's kind of crucial. But DeMeco was asked about that. He went full detail on Joe Mixon.
Everybody wants to write a hot story, and most of the time it's Nick.
That's the hot story. My bad. Wrong thing.
A few weeks ago, Nick Caley said that you all would have a better idea on Joe Mixon. Do you have an update? I know he was at the game yesterday. Do you have an update on where he is?
I do not.
He does not. So he does not know what's up with Joe Mixon. No clue on that. No surprise. That's kind of par for the course. I get it. I did think we would have a little bit of info by now, but who knows? Maybe one more week. I don't know. Sarah said 3. Where are we at? Where are we at with the bye? So Casario's media availability was Tuesday after Baltimore. Was that the 5th? So now we're 3 weeks. He said 3 to 4 weeks. So maybe after this week we'll get a full report on the Joe Mixon thing. But I would not hold my breath on that. I saw today there was more talk about the Breece Hall situation. I think that would be cool. I would not hold my breath on Joe Mixon. It's very obvious that he's effed up. And it's weird though, but I don't understand it. Like, and I've talked about the keeping it real goes wrong with the Texans when it comes to protecting players. They even asked Caserio about it. But if you know someone's going to be out for the season, why do you not say they're going to be out for the season? That's the confusing thing for me. Like, are you really doing the player a favor? Or are you just being weirdly paranoid? That was the Christian Harris thing last year, where I knew he wasn't coming back anytime soon. I'm not asking to play gotcha. I'm asking because a lot, like the fans that you listen so closely to, claim not to, but the fans that you listen so closely to, they think that he's basically soft when he's actually in a cast. I knew that. I didn't come out and say he was in a cast. I asked you so that you could maybe ease it, and you got defensive about it multiple times. So like if a guy's out for the season, are you protecting him by not saying he's out for the season? Are you protecting the team? Because team and player are not always connected. And that was where Caserio, when we asked about the injury, that was where he kind of talked out of both ends. Because first he said the goal is to protect the player. If you go back and listen to Caserio's media availability, I said, what's with the way y'all handle this, what's the deal? He said, well, to protect the player. Well, he spoke, and I like listening to Caserio talk. I actually think he gets some good information from Nick. I think he does a good job of articulating what he says. There is some word salad, but I enjoy interacting with Nick, and I think he knows the deal in certain areas. But he said player, and then later on in the conversation, he said team. Those aren't the same. And you look at like where he comes from, New England, they're always team. It's not necessarily player. So those things aren't the same. Like if a player gets hurt and let's like what's in the best interest of the player, maybe to not go back on the field for the team. Hey, shoot him up and get him back out there. There's that's the sad reality of it. What's best for the team is not always what's best for the player. If you know he's going to be out for the season, I don't know how you're protecting him by not saying it. What is that doing? Especially if it's obvious. But even if, like, in this imaginary world that we're living in, that they put us in this imaginary world where they're acting as if there's a chance, like a Lloyd Christmas saying there's a chance that Joe Mixon's going to come back. Let's just pretend let's pretend it's reality. Let's pretend it's not even imaginary. Let's pretend that it's reality. If there's even a chance, like let's say the injury was bad enough to where it was a 6-month injury. Joe Mixon's going to be 30 years old. That's kind of the point where it's make or break for running backs. He's also going to be at the point where in this imaginary world that they want us to live in, he's playing in a system that he's never practiced in, that he hasn't really played in. And he's also coming off a serious injury and going out there on the field. Like he's putting his career at risk by going out there. So from his perspective, why would he want to do that? It's not best for him. I wouldn't advise that. Some people will say, well, he's under contract. I don't care. I don't care if he's under contract or not. He's got to try to play football as long as possible. I think next year the Texans are probably in the running back market at the top, whether it's the draft or free agency. But at this point, for this imaginary Joe Mixon may come back world that they're trying to live in, what's the point of Joe Mixon going out there? There's none. It doesn't make sense. David V says, I agree. Just tell the truth. Look, I get not telling the truth all the time. Like, I get it if a guy's week to week and you don't want to come out and say he's not going to play. I get that. But if you know he's out for the season, what are you benefiting? How does that help him? I don't know. Danny says, I feel like the injury reporting is sort of disingenuous too. Fans pay to watch star players as well as buy their jerseys and stuff. The business only works because of fans, so why keep them in the dark? Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it's fine. Now, the NFL is very transparent. There's injury reports. Guys are ruled out Friday. I think the NBA does a terrible job of it. But I think the NFL does a pretty good job of at least making teams be somewhat transparent when it comes to injuries. I think they do a decent job at that. But I go back to my example. If the guy's out for the season, just tell me how that benefits him to say that he might or might not be back. Tell me how that benefits the player. It makes no sense to me. But who knows? Some people would say I don't make sense, which is perfectly fine. But the one thing that I do make sense when it comes to decisions is Texans Turf. Shout out to Dan the man. Lovely backyard right now. Just went out there while it was raining. I walk outside when it's raining because there's no mud, because there's no dirt, because there's no insects, because it drains perfectly, because it feels great. It's green, clean, feels good. And that's what Dan did for me. I wanted that turf. I would see people with turf, whether it's a putting green, playing surface, and I'd say, man, I want that. And I shopped around. Got very discouraged. This is a true story. Got very discouraged. First few companies, absolute slime balls. Rip-off masters. They look like half-ass guys. I don't even know if they should have been driving, quite honestly. Dan was the man, though. He came here. He was honest. He gave me a good estimate. He didn't just try to sell me the top thing. He took me through all the options, he even made a recommendation that wasn't at the tippity top. And when he put it in, it looked great. But then I realized, damn, there's custom draining here in each corner. There's a drain right here. My goodness. It's easy to clean up. It's perfect. It looks great. And Dan is the man. I shopped around, so you don't have to. Probably shouldn't have snitched on these guys drinking and driving on the job. That was a little unnecessary. I didn't say their names, though, but I'm just telling you, those turf companies can be slimy. Not Dan. Not Dan the man. Jaylen Null. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like Jaylen Null needs to be a part of this rotation even more. Now, it feels like they just like to play him on passing downs, which is fine if you want to do that. But you can also see, it's clear as day, you can also see that Jaylen Null and CJ Stroud have a strong chemistry, specifically on the deep ball, which I think has been something that CJ Stroud has kind of lacked. We always talk about CJ Stroud, and he talks about the 2 high shells, and is there a blueprint for stopping CJ Stroud? And when he talks about 2 high shells, sometimes it feels like he's talking about there's 20 guys on the field against 11. It feels like it's like a big deal for him. And we know he likes to play throw the deep ball. We've seen him throw some beautiful deep balls early on in his career. Kind of went away though for a while. You know, Tank Dell gone, defenses kind of adjusted, but Jaylen Null, I think the 3 best passes CJ Stroud has thrown this season, the prettiest throws, plays have been deep balls to Jaylen Null. And it seems like they have that immediate chemistry that you don't always see with quarterback and receiver. And CJ's kind of talked about that before. CJ's going to talk tomorrow. I'm going to ask him about this deep ball chemistry. But Jaylen Null spoke Monday, and I asked him if he noticed it. And here's what the rookie wide receiver out of Iowa State had to say.
It feels like you and CJ have pretty decent chemistry on the deep ball. Was that just natural? A lot of times that doesn't happen as quick as it has, especially with the limited opportunities. What makes y'all have such what appears to be good chemistry on the deep ball?
I think the hardest part is CJ's part, him actually putting the ball out there. He puts the ball in the perfect spot, so it's really kudos to him being able to do what he does. It's just on me to be in the right spot at the right time, and like I said, he does the hard part in getting the ball there, so he's been really impressive in that way.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. It's been impressive. It's been the best that CJ Stroud has looked on those deep balls, like to Jaylen Null. And he's fast. He's strong. He's if you look at his combine numbers, freak athlete, Jaylen Null. He really knows how to go up and get the rock. And CJ Stroud knows how to throw it to him. And he's not aiming it. I think there's a little bit of element. I'm not trying to act like I'm like some quarterback genius or anything like that. I sound like a jackass, but I do wonder, like, when you have like a guy who has a basketball background like Jaden Higgins, where you want to, on one hand, he's not overly fast, but you're kind of trying to aim it because you want to throw it to the perfect high point. I do wonder if there's kind of that element with CJ and him. And with Null, it's this team has lacked speed for a long time. I think he was top 5 at the combine in the 40 shuttle, all that type of stuff. So I think it's just an element of the offense that they need. And I'll be honest, I don't want to reel this into striking fear into the heart of people who, and I think most of the people, and I do mean you people, I think most of y'all probably want the Texans to win on Sunday. I just wonder, like, with these guys coming back, Nico Collins and Christian Kirk, the guy who seems so hesitant to play rookies, and even Woody Marks is like, want to see more of that, want to see more of Higgins, want to see more of Null. Like, part of me just wonders, like, if those guys never got hurt, do we ever see these rookies implemented the way we did on Sunday? In other words, was it almost a blessing in disguise that Nick Caley was forced to get these rookies involved? And if so, is Nick Caley going to be able to keep that going? And is he going to be able to count his blessings and continue doing that? because I do wonder what the rotation looks like. But I just think this guy, he provides the offense with something that they don't have and that they haven't had, and that CJ Stroud has needed for a really long time, a deep threat. I think he loosens up the defenses, and I just think he's a hell of a player. It was my favorite pick of the draft, Jaylen Null, the fact he was there. And I hope that Nick Caley does not just completely throw that out to the side for Christian Kirk. Nico Collins, you got to get in. Like you got to get Nico Collins in there and work around him and hope that you keep these guys going. But my question is, how does Kirk fit into this rotation? Now, Cody says he takes the place of Braxton Berrios. I don't even know about that. Maybe this might be my biggest overreaction is I feel like Braxton Berrios brought some juice the other day. Braxton Berrios not only was moving the chains, but he was out there. He was being an absolute dog. He was pounding the chest. That 3rd and 11 was huge.
I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog.
And we've wanted multiple slot receivers. Christian Kirk showed some things in camp, but you can't necessarily depend on him. And quite frankly, I don't think Christian Kirk should be on the field in passing situations more than Jaylen Null. He's not faster. He doesn't have more upside. And he doesn't, outside of the nugs that we saw in camp, he doesn't have the chemistry with CJ Stroud. I think there's a chance we look back at this draft 2 years from now and we say, man, Jaylen Null, what a steal that was. I think in the immediate future, we could see Jaylen Null add elements to the offense that we haven't seen. But I also think that Nick Caley, my bad, same thing. Nick C's, same mindset. It feels like at times. Nick. Feels like sometimes they just lean towards vets instead of rooks. I think you gotta keep doing what you're doing with Jaylen Null. There's clear chemistry there. There's clear chemistry. So you gotta balance it out. You gotta balance it out, and you gotta take advantage of the weapons. And there's a lot of shuffling that Nick Caley's gonna have to do. Like, is there such thing as using the 6 offensive linemen too much? Is there such thing as not being able to mix in the receivers? The running back duo, is that what they're 100% comfortable with week to week? There's a lot of things that you got to figure out, and there's a lot of trust issues with Nick Caley to where you may or may not really believe it. But I'll tell you this, I've liked what I've seen from these rookies when they've gotten opportunities. There's times where Higgins and Stroud don't appear to be on the same page. There's times where maybe Higgins kind of gets big-bodied. But that's why you got to move him around and figure it out. And that's not even to mention that Nico Collins has been kind of a disappointment. I'm not counting the injury, but Nico Collins, I'm sure there's a lot of people that drafted him in the first round in fantasy. I think Nico Collins is one of the 5 guys in fantasy where he's one of the 5 guys that is on the most last place teams in fantasy. I think him, Burrow, there's a couple of others. Like I think Lamar Jackson's up there. But Nico Collins is up there. So he hasn't really been producing, but you can work that out. You can figure that out. And I think it should complement what you already got. Like the vision you have what have we been talking about with Nick Caley? What have I been talking about? We all talked though. But what was the first question I asked Nick Caley? Do y'all even know? I mean, we posted it and I was obsessing over it. I did videos over it. Multiple slot receivers. I asked Caserio about it. Multiple slot receivers. In New England, he had it. In New England, he was there. Now, he wasn't the OC, but he observed it. And if you observe things, sometimes you put them to practice. But when he first got to New England, it was Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. Then they happened to get the best tight end duo of all time. The arguably greatest tight end of all time in Rob Gronkowski, and the 10-time Walter Payton Man of the Year, Aaron Hernandez. All right, that part wasn't true, but Aaron Hernandez was a good player. He was definitely never the Walter Payton Man of the Year. But they got that tight end duo, and they went away from the slots. Then they went back to the 2 slots with Edelman and Amendola. And then when he went to the Rams with McVay, they had Cooper Kupp, who was one of the best receivers in the league, out of the slot, and they got Puka. And although Cooper Kupp was hurt, when those 2 guys were on the field at the same time, the Rams were number 1 in damn near every offensive advanced stat you can see. So he observed what multiple slots look like. Now, you're not going to have Cooper Kupp and Puka. You're not going to have Julian Edelman and Wes Welker or Julian Edelman and Amendola, but you can still use multiple slot guys, especially when you have a bad offensive line. And that's what I was looking for. And that's what we kind of got our first taste of that against San Francisco, where you had Berrios and Kirk moving the chains. Not Kirk, Berrios and Null moving the chains. So I hope that stays. That was one of the first things. That was one of the first things that I wondered. Also, the last question I asked him was about QB sneaks. And that appears to be back. That appears to be back in the mix. But how does Kirk fit in this rotation? I really don't know. I don't think he's just terrible, but I know he's not dependable. And I know damn sure he's not Jaylen Null. He might be a little bit more polished. He might have like a more of a vet grasp of the offense. I do think a lot of times when they talk about guys being in the right place, and Dalton Schultz had the quote with Albert Breer where he said guys aren't lining up right in the right effing place. I would think that maybe Jaylen Null's one of those guys, but help him out. Figure him out. Figure it out. And on passing downs, I'd rather have him out there than Kirk. I think it would be a damn shame with how much this team has been starving for the deep ball. I think it would be a damn shame for them to eliminate that element of their offense. Been one of the more encouraging things that they've shown. So I hope it remains, and I hope it hangs around. But as I said earlier, hope is not a plan, and hope is usually to try to overcome a lack of faith. And I don't have the faith in Nick. Nick. But they got to get it right. It would be great if they could mix them all in. But I feel like I might be asking for too much there. From Kaylee. Like that might be a little much. But we'll see. Here's the other thing that we really haven't talked about a lot. And I put out my grades on Houston football. And pretty much everyone got A's. Let me pull these up so that I don't misrepresent. But I did it for Houston football. If you don't subscribe to Houston football, then you're not getting the best written word of Texans football. But I gave CJ an A. I gave the running backs an A. I gave the receivers an A. I gave the tight ends, a.k.a. Dag, Dalton, and guys, a B. I gave the O-line an A. D-line got a B+. This is going somewhere. Linebackers got a B. Safeties got a B+. Corners got an A. And then special teams got a C-. Frank Ross's special teams haven't been very great. Not by the standard he set. And quite frankly, kicking is kicking. Fairbairn's making his field goals, but I don't know what's going on with these kickoffs. These kickoffs are a disaster. That game should not have been 16-7 at halftime. There's no excuse for that. They allowed a kick return to midfield, and they also had a 15-yard penalty. So they allowed San Francisco with a minute left, under a minute left, to start their drive at the 35-yard line in a full two-possession game. Full two-possession game being 2 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversions. There's no excuse for that. Now, fortunately for them, the defense had their A game going, and outside of a couple of lapses, the 3rd and long to Jennings on MJ Stewart, and the Kittle touchdown, which they were put in a bad spot at, the defense was ready to go. You can't have stuff like that, though. You don't know how to kick off. This is coming off not knowing how to execute at the end of the game, risking a ball game for 5 to save 5 yards. And then you have that return. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. We used to be able to look at Frank Ross's special teams and say, hey, we know Frank's going to bring it. And we know that Frank Ross is going to be, the third phase is going to be taken care of. It was the weakest link the other day. It's been the weakest link for a while. The way that game ended, the offense has been, but the special teams hasn't been good. The fact that they had Berrios in there instead of Null, Frank Ross has got to get it together. I really blame the paranoia now. Maybe that's why Frank's paranoid.
How did you arrive at the decision to go with Berrios at punt return instead of Null?
I don't think there's a decision to go with anybody. I think
Well, I can promise you I'm going to ask him this week, what made you go with Null back to Null? I think Frank knows we gave him a hard time for that. He's our guy, though. Shout out to Frank Ross, friend of the show. Special teams hadn't been great, though. They got to figure it out. Who's going to Spanky's this Friday? Sharpstown, 3 o'clock, right after practice. If you're not, you're missing out. Happy hour, best prices in the game. My favorite pizza. My favorite wings, maybe even. And the tater kegs. Everybody's a big fan of the tater kegs. Chicken Alfredo lasagna, yummy. All the pasta, the sandwiches, delicious. My mouth is watering right now. I cannot wait to get out there, and we hope you'll be out there with us, myself and Cody. We're gonna have a lot of gift cards to give away too. So come out there, and the cheap gets cheaper when it comes to them. So come out there, join us at Spanky's. Cody is going to be in costume. It's the perfect costume. This was one of my best discoveries, but Cody will be there. I don't know if the parents are going to want their kids around him with his costume, but he's fine. You ain't got to worry about him. It's rough. I have my costume too. I'm going to be a Texans legend, or not a Texans legend. Very nice. Yeah, coaches do overthink stuff. Space Age says coaches overthink. This is the most overthinking coaching staff that I've seen in a long time, and somewhat disingenuous at times with some of the claims that they make, but it just kind of is what it is there. They just got to win. They got to win. Everybody wants them to win. They don't get it nearly as bad. Like this performance in a lot of cities would be getting a lot worse. I'm not being Brian Cushing. I'm not being CJGJ. I'm being a front office guy that left us a long time ago. That was my arch nemesis. 320 says he is on that HG.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
And he says, I'm talking about food like a damn devil. I talk about food a lot. I know. That sucks, though. So you're high and you're talking about food. What's the best high food? Like just driving through Whataburger? Is that like the easiest? Not what someone drives for you. What is the best high food? Is it just a burger or something like that? Is it just going to the fridge and just being crazy? Act like you're on Food Network. I like Hood Rat nachos. That's my favorite. You just get the chips and you sprinkle the shredded cheese on there, throw some jalapenos on there, maybe some salsa. If you have like some chicken, just throw some chicken on there. Put it in the microwave. Probably about 80 seconds. Just depends on the cheese. Some of the cheese gets real hard, some is soft. But you can check it there. That's my favorite. Hood Rat nachos. Yeah, Fridge Pirate's the way to go on that. So tomorrow, again, we have Nico and Kirk watch. We'll be at practice. Practice is about 12:45. DeMeco's going to talk. CJ's going to talk. And it'll be all good. It'll be fun. Us guys will be good. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Be at Spanky's on Friday, Sharpstown location. We hope to see you there. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether they're favored or not, we're all in it together. Notice I did not make that pick with the imaginary gun. I still got to think about that. That's a tough one. Your life depends on it. Are the Texans going to cover or not? I'm still thinking about it. You can call me a coward all you want. I don't care. Bye-bye.
Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room.